Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sibme Coach Replay Show. Today, we have a special edition because we know there are many of y'all out there who are finding yourselves either on extended spring break or possibly working from home or looking at working from home in the next week or so. And we've seen in our Sibme community, as well as just the other educator communities that we're a part of, that there are lots of questions about this working remotely, collaborating together, creating online content. So this special episode are with two of my best friends, Jennie and Lindsey, my colleagues here at Sibme. Welcome, Jennie and Lindsey. And we're going to be kicking off just a couple of just mini videos that we'll be publishing throughout this weekend and into next week with some tips on how to do this, because we're pretty well versed at this here at Sibme. We have virtual coaching services. We are a virtual company where we work from our own locations. You can see Jennie and Lindsey and I are each in our own homes, and this is everyday life for us. So we've got some tips for you. If you need them, feel free to reach out to us. But today we're going to be talking about working remotely and using video, particularly to connect and collaborate with colleagues or your students, and for developing online content. So Jennie and Lindsey, welcome. I'm so excited about this upcoming series with us.
Thanks for having us, Cory.
Yeah. So just to give a little bit of background, because we're definitely hearing a lot of these questions from parents in the community, and we are all parents. We're all moms and have various scenarios at home. So mine are 10, 7, and 5. I've got three kiddos at home who are doing online schooling as of this week. So we're on day 3 of online schooling. Jennie, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
So I have 8, and they range in age from 9 to 22. And so I have some that are grown and gone. I have 5 that are still home and schooling with me.
Yes. And, if you're wondering how to do that, which I have been lately, I've been following the WWJD, what would Jennie do, all week. I'm like, Jennie, tell me, how do you do this? So, and then Lindsey, tell us about you and your family.
Yeah, so my husband and I have one little guy. He is 4 years old, and I have been working at home virtually since just before he was born. So it's been an interesting evolution of, as he's changed, things have changed in terms of how I make it work, but it's been exciting.
Yeah. So you definitely have some great tips for anyone who's looking for how to work remotely from home with a little one. I know that lots of daycare centers are looking at being closed. And I know we, in the beginning of all of this, we had our school-age kids at home, but our 5-year-old could still go to daycare. And now that situation has changed for us here in Ohio. So lots of questions about how do I actually get my work done and keep my kiddos happy and healthy and stimulated throughout the day. So focusing back in on using video, we've got some tips for you if you're finding yourself getting in front of a camera lens anytime in the next coming weeks or months. So our very first tip is to be prepared and expect the unexpected. You're working from home. Ladies, do you have anything to add to this tip?
Yeah, I was just thinking like, hey, during this recording, if my son comes up to me, and has been playing quietly on his own, but all of a sudden kind of needs another idea, like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what will it be? Like, what's my next thing to kind of give him? And so, yeah, I think it's always just sort of thinking one step ahead.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Thinking about your day, especially if you've got little ones at home, trying to chunk those things together. We're going to be sharing more tips about some ways to be prepared for various situations, for working from home for yourself, how to make that work for yourself, as well as with family members home as well. Mm-hmm. I'd add to this our second tip, which I encourage everybody to do, is to turn your camera on. we're all isolated right now and quarantined on our own, but it really makes a difference when your camera is on, y'all. It helps you, especially if you're in live meetings and you're kind of collaborating with anybody, or if you're doing a video for students for their online learning. It's so beneficial. We just reposted a post from last night that TJ had posted on our Sibme page about a parent thanking teachers for doing those videos. And you don't know how important it is that my child got to see you and even see you in your home environment. It really makes a difference. When you don't have those cameras on, you're typically looking at a black screen or a blank screen or something else. And it's kind of hard to make it feel connected. Jennie, I know you and we do a lot of customer onboarding meetings, and sometimes it's really hard to figure out where to lead that conversation next when we can't see the individuals, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's so important for just kind of that personal connection, especially in these times when we find ourselves kind of isolated from even friends and family, so to speak. But to be able to make those personal connections, I can see you, I can see your expressions, I can see how you're responding. And it's just a nice part of our day as well, because otherwise we can get very isolated. And I think that's the hard part of working from home sometimes, is that isolation. And now that we have kind of this more isolation than normal, being able to see each other is such a big factor in connecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And depending on the type of meeting, right? Like, especially if you're doing internal meetings, we're all in the same boat right now. So it's okay. Like if you have your camera on and your kid runs behind you, or your, dog is doing something silly or something happens, like we're all in this boat together. We're all giving each other a lot of grace. And so, I think for sure what Jennie said, like the value of that emotional connection is so much greater than like the fear of, hey, if somebody sees like there's a bunch of Legos on my floor over here or something,
Yeah. And I know, Lindsey, there was a time when, turning our cameras on has not always been the norm here at Sibme, but as we have grown more as a virtual workforce, it has become a norm in the past year that, you're kind of expected, unless there's something going on with your technology and it's just really not working. We want to see you. We want to be able to engage with you. I think it helps keep people present, both those who are viewing the presenter or the speaker on the video with the teacher, as well as those who are, if you're in a live call, participating in that meeting. And I know that you led us in a really exciting kind of activity, and that was one of the first times that you were like, okay, can we turn our cameras on? You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was doing like a little bit of a sort of motivational kind of icebreaker thing. And it was something that for sure I needed to be on camera for. There's my kiddo, if you can hear him. But also it was just, if I was going to be on camera, I also needed that buy-in of everyone.
Looks like we lost.
So
can you hear us?
Was really helpful.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Lindsey ran through her own, homemade paper banner for us. It was a big motivational thing. We had some Eye of the Tiger on, and it was, she definitely had to be on the camera for it, but it was also one of those, like, get on with me, because it is hard to read a room and get people motivated virtually if you can't see them. So we'll jump on to the next one. Lindsey may have gotten a call. She's coming to us from her mobile device today, so she can rejoin it if she got disconnected. But let's think about your setting. So this is something to consider where it's controllable, right? So, this is one of my favorite places to go to meetings from, because it's a nice little background. I've pretty good lighting, which we're going to talk about in a minute. I also have another space that I'll typically do meetings from, but then there's some places where you'll probably never find me doing a meeting from, unless when I threw my knee out that one time, I was from the couch for a few internal meetings, and it's just not very graceful looking for me, not the best camera angle from my couch, and definitely not where I would meet with any customers or anything, but my close friends. And Jennie, you've just moved into a new home, and so you've been thinking about your setting. Yeah,
absolutely. So I found a spot where you can't see all the stuff, right? Because of moving boxes and things are everywhere. And so I I walked around and found a spot where maybe it doesn't, I mean, I'm a little plain back here at this point, but at least we're not super cluttered, because otherwise, I don't know about you, sometimes in a meeting, I try to figure out what's going on behind them sometimes if it's super cluttered. So I didn't want to distract from that this morning. So I found this nice plain wall that, and then all the clutter is right here in front of me. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. So same here. Now this room is kind of a non-example, but I've tried to at least make the clutter aesthetically pleasing, but I've got a lot of different things. People have asked me.
I love your room.
Yes. Jenny was like, when I first met you and you zoomed from that room, I wanted to have tea with you. I've had others ask me if it was a QVC set. I don't know. So, but, and we could see when Lindsay had her camera on, she's got a nice little background. So when it's possible, at the very least, find a blank space. It's a little less distracting for individuals. You definitely want to think about finding a quiet spot. Now, Jenny, you have lots in your household. And when we get Lindsay back, we'll have to talk a little bit about this as well with a young one who tend to produce a lot of noise. Any tips for this quiet spot?
So I think number one, prepare your kids as much as you can. Now, of course, that's going to be dependent on their age, but mine know that when I have my headphones on, which is also a big tip, is because it does kind of take away some of that noise, that they can't interrupt me. And so being able to prepare them to be quiet during this time, and then also to just find the nice quiet spot in the house. But sometimes it's unavoidable. And so sometimes the kid hollers out, or sometimes, the cat walks by, and there's certain things that sometimes technology, like poor Lindsay is having trouble. Like, there's some things that are unavoidable, but it just kind of reminds us all that we're human. We're doing the best we can, but some things aren't seamless. And so that's okay. I mean, with me, my personal philosophy at home is always, I want to hold a meeting and not sound like I'm in a daycare. So if we can, because I have so many, I could have lots of different kids walking by me. And so I try to be up against the wall, so at least they're not behind me, or to where, trying to keep the cat off the desk. I mean, there's other things we try to do, but sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't go seamlessly. And that's okay too, because we're kind of all in the same boat. And I think it also makes us normal, and normal is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's most exciting, and one of the things that my fourth grader has enjoyed so much about looking at these videos that his fourth grade team has been putting on to their Schoology site for their online learning this week, has been getting to see their teachers like at home, right? Like it makes them like a real person. Or the cat that they've always talked about walks across the screen, like always happens. And they're like, oh, there's Fido the cat. I don't know. So I think it definitely, it can only connect us more, really, whenever we think about people being able to see us from our home. Lindsay, do we have you back? Can you hear us?
I think I'm back, guys. I'm very sorry about hey, this is real life, right?
Right? Expect the unexpected. Yeah, definitely. So we were just rounding out our tip on your setting. If you're looking for some of these ideas, the first thing I really had to think about for myself was also finding a space that had good lighting. Lighting will be your friend. Lighting and like your camera angle. If you tilt this little camera down a little bit, it helps with anything that you're trying to hide. But it's amazing what a well-positioned lamp that you take from an end table and move kind of behind your computer. If you're finding yourself, you definitely don't want to sit in front of a window. And there's not much else lighting, because that's going to backlight you really bad. And you're going to look like you're in one of those investigation shows where your voice should be modulated. So face a window, have the window kind of behind your camera screen or your computer screen if you're recording on your computer like I am, or just move a lamp back there and just play around a little bit with it. Lighting really has a big effect on helping your personality shine and come through and show that you're warmth and that, you're well and all of those things. So lighting, if you're really, nobody enjoys seeing themselves on camera. That's probably what's been so hard about this for a lot of people. But if you can find some complementary lighting and find a good space behind you, I think you'll feel a lot more comfortable. So, all right, ladies. Yeah. It's my favorite tip because lighting is definitely my friend or my foe.
Yes. And then
So-
it gets easier too. Like,
Yeah,
right? Like
it
seeing
does.
yourself on camera,
Mhm.
hopefully with good lighting. It's something that you just sort of like once you sort of normalize to it, it gets better, right?
Yeah.
And having awesome colleagues who, when your video is not working, like they're cool with you jumping out and jumping back in. Like
Right. It's just
too.
a normal thing. Yeah.
We all have to help each other feel comfortable with this, right?
Right. Well, and I think that's a great segue into our final tip here for being on camera is to look at the camera. We have this tendency to want to look down, like especially if you're in a Zoom meeting or a WebEx meeting or any kind of Google Hangouts. If the participants have their cameras on, or if you're like me, when I first started talking, I really was like looking at, like right now, I'm using my hand. I use my hands a lot on camera, and I'd be like, have to keep them in my pockets, or I rocked a little bit, and then I'm looking at myself. And so we tend to want to look at ourselves, and then that can trip us up a little bit. Look at the camera. That's going to help you a little bit with that easing into just feeling comfortable on camera, but it also helps you connect with the people you're talking with. So looking at the camera on your lens way up here is like making eye contact with the people who are viewing you on video, either if you're pre-recording or in a meeting, right? And so, and that's something that it comes with time as you're doing this, but think about that a little bit as you're moving forward, looking at that camera. Sometimes I just have to, if I'm really kind of looking at all the different people, I'll try to move their images towards the top of my screen closer to that camera, so it does look like I'm looking at them. Or sometimes you have two screens, and so you're over here, and that's where you see everybody, but you're talking over in this one. So ladies, any final tips or tricks for any of our viewers today?
I just hope everybody's well and stays well. And, in this little piece, which is sort of navigating, working from home and being on camera and all of that, excited to kind of share what has worked for us and sometimes what has not worked for us. And just what is real life, and we're all, I think, we're all navigating this together. And we've been doing this as a company for a while, but now, that sort of group has expanded where really so many people are doing this. And so for us to I think it's always nice to be in something with other people and working it out together. So I'm thankful for you guys.
Yeah, I know. Same here. And we've been doing it for a while, but the homeschool, Jennie's been doing this forever, but running, online learning over here in this room, which is where that's happening right now. On top of this, usually my kids are home in the summer for the past 2 years. We've navigated kids at home and working remotely during the summer because they're outside the whole time or at a friend's house during my work day. But this has been a little bit new. So I think everyone's finding themselves in some new waters. And I think that's a great reminder, Lindsey. And I think we were joking just for the show. Sanity is optional, but hopefully our tips can help you bring a little bit of sanity to the situation that we're in. So be looking for these videos coming from us. We'll be posting them on all of our social media outlets. Sometimes there'll be some conversations and interviews with the three of us, or maybe just one or two of us, but we are here to help you. So post in the comments below if you've got any questions for us, anything that you're trying to tackle as you begin to work and teach remotely. All right. Okay, ladies. Well, thanks so much for joining me for this special edition, and I will see you all soon.
Thanks, Cory.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Cory.
Bye.